Coffee Break with Jimmy. I want to talk this week. Well, actually, want to talk all week about it. I haven't had a chance. Donald Trump and his administration, they dropped the bunker busters in Iran last weekend. In fact, I was at a family reunion. I was talking to some cousins, and they were saying, "Hey, what do you think? Do you think Trump will drop those bunker busters in Iran?" And I said, well, the sooner the better. I mean, he's talking about it. He said it might be done in the next couple of weeks. It only took a couple of days, and nobody knew it was coming, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Even though Congress said, well, he's supposed to talk to us about when we're going to declare war on somebody. Well, we weren't declaring war. We were just dropping the bunker busters to stop the spinning of the uranium there and to make nuclear weapons, and that's been something that's been talked about by the last four or five presidencies, talking about it since let's talk about it. 1979 is when they exiled the Shah, the mullahs took over, and they kidnapped a bunch of students and different people in the U.S. Embassy back then. I was in the Marine Corps at that time. It was back in 1979. And we're all put on alert because of this. And this has been going on since then. Now, Iran's never been, quote unquote, a world power, I guess you can say. But they sponsor terrorism, and they've been sponsoring terrorism, well, so, as long as I can remember. I can remember when they blew up the Marine Corps barracks. That's something that was personally, personal to my heart because I'm a Marine. And I think it was 240 Marines were killed in that bombing. And they've had roadside bombs. They've had, the Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas. These are all products of Iran, and they're the ones who support this. Well, this has been going on for some time. They've been talking about death to America, death to Israel. This has to stop. So Trump did it. He did it, and he did it in grand fashion. And they came in and they dropped. I've heard different numbers, but the last I heard it was 14 bunker busters by 3 B-2 bombers. They dropped them on 3 different locations there in Iran that were spinning the uranium and building and getting it to weapons grade. And I guess all I had to do was get to 90%, and they were all at 60% at that time. Of course, I don't know the numbers. You've heard different numbers. But it's something that had to be stopped. Well, since then, we've had a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. They haven't had a ceasefire yet in the Gaza Strip, but I believe that's coming. And I believe other countries are going to now join the Abraham Accords, and the Abraham Accords was something that Trump done in his first presidency, and Bahrain and UAE, they all joined in with Israel and doing trade with Israel. I think Saudi Arabia is going to come in. There are going to be other countries. I know. I guess some missiles were fired at American base there in Qatar, and of the 13 missiles, I think 12 of them were intercepted. 1 was let through because it was going someplace wasn't significant. I guess it was going to hit nothing. But so all this stuff's been going on, and there's just so much stuff that's been going on, and it's all led by the Trump presidency. And I like what Marco Rubio's doing. I like what our military secretary, Pete Hegseth, what he's doing there. I mean, it was all kept a secret, even though I guess there was some leaks later, but there wasn't any leaks prior to the strike, which was a good thing because our bombers got in and got out. They came from Missouri, if you can believe that. They flew all the way from Missouri. I guess it was a 37-hour round trip to make this happen. So I guess we're going to see what happens from here. They say it was a total obliteration of the three sites. I don't know that they've had any verification. I know Israel has got people on the ground. Israel's a big part of this. You know, there are people on the ground, whether it was there's special forces on the ground that were keeping an eye on things. They've been watching this for some time. And they've had and I guess they took out all the missile sites to make it easier, or make it to where we are able to take our B-2 bombers and get in there and make the strike. So it's been done. We'll find out probably in the near future what the total devastation in fact was. And we'll find out whether we're going to have a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. There is a ceasefire now between Israel and Iran. So we'll see what all that happens. But it's about time, and you knew this was going to happen on Trump's watch. Trump was going to get it. I tell you what, this president, this commander-in-chief, he's the best we've ever had, and he'll go down in history. You'll hear it 30 years from now. Trump was the best president we ever had. And that's why I've said before, I really believe he should get another term after this term. Now, we'll see what this term's going to lead us. We've got, J.D. Vance. Of course, there's Ron DeSantis, and I think his governorship in Florida is going to end in a couple of years. And I think he would be a good candidate to take Trump's place as a president. J.D. Vance would be too, but I still think J.D. Vance. Let's look at it this way. Maybe J.D. Vance could be. I don't know if he's going to be 2, 3, 4 terms as vice president. I don't know. What the criteria is there. But just say, for instance, Ron DeSantis runs for president, and he brings in J.D. Vance as his vice president. I think that would be a good combination. But I really think, and I believe, Trump should get at least one more term. And if 75% of the people, if 75% of the Senate, 75% of the House, if they voted in and they create this new policy to where Trump can actually run again, because he was ripped off the second go around on Biden's presidency, I don't think Biden was, come on, where are you going to get 80 million votes? Okay, Trump got 75 million votes. Where did Biden get 80 million votes? These had to be fraudulent votes. These had to be, votes that probably counted twice. But it is what it is. It's where we're at now. But we also know that Trump was ripped off in 2020. So I think he should be given at least an opportunity to run again, because it's going to take, I believe, it's going to take at least 8 years to, I want to say, un-F this problem that Biden created. And they say 10 to 20 million illegals cross the board illegally, and I guess some of them did come through and were stopped, and they were given court dates to appear. They wanted to claim asylum, but then they disappear into the fabric of the United States. And so the Trump organization with Al Holman and Kristi Noem, our Secretary of HS, they're working on getting as many of the bad illegal aliens out of here first. But there are others that they happen to come across that are illegal. Well, they're probably going to get deported too, but they're giving them an out by allowing them to go ahead and deport themselves. Go back to your original country, then come back the right way, and you'll be given an opportunity to enter the United States on work visas, things of that nature, not as a citizen, but at least the right way to where they can come in and be here legally. So there's a number of different things that are going on right now. There's a number of different things that are happening. We're going to find out more about the bombing and what the devastation was. I think it was total devastation myself. I can't see how those bunker busters didn't do anything but I'm so happy about that. And another thing, it came about, I guess it was yesterday. where the Supreme Court weighed in that these these justice courts, or there's like 700 of them, of these courts that aren't part of the Supreme Court. They're not part of the appellate courts. They're just the regular court system. They go to liberal areas, and they'll find a judge there that'll sanction something against the president, file something to stop the president from doing what he's doing, and the court system can't do that. The president was elected by the people. The only person that can step in, and that's only if he's breaking the law, is the Supreme Court. Well, they stepped in, and they said that these lower courts cannot stop the president from doing what he's doing, that whether it be executive orders, or mostly executive orders, but they can't stop the president from doing what he's doing. And so that was weighed in yesterday, and I guess this Ketanji Brown Jackson, I guess Amy Coney Barrett, another justice, she says some things about her where she doesn't really know what she's talking, and I'm paraphrasing, but she doesn't know what she's talking about. And if she really believes that way, she's not really going by the Constitution and what she's supposed to abide by, the Constitution. And she should probably get another job doing something else. Because I tell you what, when of course, Biden appointed her to be a Supreme Court justice because she's a woman and she's a black woman. And that's what he wanted. He wanted to appoint a woman and a black woman. And so he did, but she's not very smart. It's just real simple to me. When she was asked the question, can she define what a woman is? And she said, no, she couldn't define what a woman is. Well, she's a woman. She should be able to define what a woman is. Come on. They're so bent on this LGBTQ stuff, and whether men can compete because they say they're a woman and they can compete in women's sports. That's just wrong. And this Supreme Court justice, hopefully, they got a life tenure, so she's going to be there for a while. Hopefully she'll get smarter, but I don't think so. But anyhow, so that's the stuff that's going on here lately. The bombing was successful, and that's all they've been talking about all week. And now, until they got this hearing, I believe it was about the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship. And I was always under the impression that if you were born here, now this was my impression for years, if you were born here, you're a citizen. Well, that's not the case. And that amendment was put forth at the end of slavery, and it was for the slaves and their children that were born here, to where they were actual citizens of the United States because they were in fact born here. But that has been twisted and spun since then till now, and until President Trump actually took an issue with it and said this isn't right, this birthright citizenship. Just because you're born here doesn't, and your parents are illegal, that doesn't mean you're an actual citizen. Now, I was wrong myself, and there's going to be more to it than that. I'm sure we're going to hear more about the Supreme Court on that, but I'm glad that the bombing took place. We stopped Iran from creating nuclear weapons. They can't have nuclear weapons because, I know other countries, you're talking about Russia, China, United States, Israel, Pakistan, India. These are all countries that have nuclear weapons, but they also know that this is all a deterrent. This is not something, they're not going to do this. They're not going to use those weapons. But I believe Iran will. I believe their belief, because their belief is the Muslim beliefs, and they believe they're going to get 40 versions, 70 versions, or something to that effect. I don't know that, but they have different beliefs. They believe in Sharia law. That's not something most of the world believes in. So anyway, it's a done deal, and if in fact it wasn't total annihilation of of their uranium, the spinning of the uranium to make nuclear weapons, and I'm sure they'll hit him again. And Trump said he would hit him again if, in fact, it has to be done. So I guess we'll just wait and see. But that's the stuff that's going on this week. And I tell you what, congratulations, President Trump. You did an amazing thing. I think it's one of the best strikes, military strikes we've ever had. And look, he didn't start World War III, did he? So we'll see what happens. So anyhow, so please subscribe, press the like button, share, and hit that notification bell so next time I'm on, you can pull me up. And I'm probably going to do another podcast tomorrow. I'm going to try to do more of them. I'd like to do 3 or 4 a week anyway. You know, there's so much to talk about. But we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.